Smoking bunk weed. Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report was sent in by NinjaPasta. When this happened, March 31st, 2017, the drugs used were weed and possibly an unknown substance. The dose, a 0.3 to a 0.4 of a gram. The route of administration was smoked. Gender, male. Weight, 65 kilograms. Age, 19. Height, 5'9". Prior experience, very limited. Frequent heavy drinking. I'm a student in the UK. Couple of times smoking weed. And an unknown substance given to me as LSD. Most likely 25I N-bomb. Set, very anxious earlier, but in a better mood at the start of the experience. And the setting, student halls of residence. So here we have our first laced cannabis experience. In this report, it is somewhat questionable though, whether the weed was actually laced or if the users just overreacted. But NinjaPasta gives a pretty convincing report that the weed may have been laced. Or it may have just been some garbage weed that was sprayed with a bunch of pesticides or something. But either way, this experience shows well the reaction someone may have from laced weed, especially highlighting the paranoia factor of when you don't know what you may have ingested. I think it's a pretty good story and report, and I'm sure everyone is going to like this one. So without further ado, let's dive right into this. This was a completely spontaneous experience with some good friends. I'll describe some of the events leading up to the experience as I think they affected the outcome. It was the end of term course ball, a formal along the lines of a prom. At around 7, myself and a flatmate, a good friend I'll call Amir, along with his girlfriend, headed out of our student accommodation to the hotel where the event was being hosted. The evening wasn't particularly notable. I was in good company, but due to nerves and my own anxiety, it wasn't very enjoyable, so I hit up some other friends who did a different course and weren't at the event. I met them in a town near the hotel. They are a couple, 2 girls I'll call Taya and Noelle, and one of them also lived in my student accommodation. So we headed back there with the intention of celebrating the end of term with a few joints. Getting the weed proved difficult as Noelle hadn't picked up any like she usually did, so we find another guy in the accommodation, someone I'll call Cody, who we're all friends with but not super close to. He tells us he's got us, but he needs the cash. We head to town to take out cash, and he tells us to wait outside some shop while he goes to meet the dealer. Apparently, the guy would be spooked if we all turned up, so he left us behind to go pick up. We all then head back. I'm quite anxious as this is my first time actually buying. I've always been a good boy, but it ends up being pretty chill. We smoke in Cody's flat as he had already covered the smoke alarm. He rolls 2 joints and the 2 girls and I smoke first. The girls say they've had enough and Noelle complains of a weird taste, but I wasn't tasting it, so I go for the second joint. I'm not able to finish it as it starts to get a bit intense, so I just put it out. Noelle collects the rest of the weed. This all happened at about 12:30 a.m. We head back to Taya's flat at the student accommodation and sit down in her kitchen. I'm feeling a bit spaced out with a fairly heavy body high. I'm a little nauseous, but that's nothing weird considering how much I smoked. This is where it all goes to shit. All of a sudden, I looked up at Noelle as we were talking, and her eyes are gone, replaced with thick, black zigzags. I freaked out as this was the first time I've ever properly hallucinated. My memory kinda went to shit, so the chronology might be a bit off from this point onwards, but I'll try my best. This was the end of the come-up, but I was nowhere near the peak. The room started to darken around the edges, and everything began to vibrate. It's difficult to describe, but it was like a strobe light or something, with everything vibrating at like 20 to 30 hertz. It was kind of like an old TV with the cable not fully connected. The shadows thrown by the curtains become little tornadoes, and by this point, my heart is beating out of my chest, so Taya tries to comfort me. We're sitting at the kitchen table, and she's trying to talk me down, but it's not working at all. I'm on the edge of what I now know to be ego death, and I was clutching the table because in my mind, if I let go, I would lose my mind. I'm fucking terrified at this point. Some time passes with me feeling like I'm fading in and out of reality, and I start to have closed-eye visuals with thoughts flashing through my mind at 1,000,000 miles per hour. Me in a hospital bed, my parents crying, the grave, the ambulance, the flashing lights, the hospital, in an endless, horrible loop. At this point, I'm having a panic attack too. I move to the sofa, and Noelle, who had been showering, comes back through. Her spots were moving around her face, which was weird, but amused me and helped me calm down a little. She wasn't as hot after taking off all the makeup. She gave me a hug, and I remember vividly the smell of the shampoo. It really helped me ground myself in reality. I've since learned that smells seem to do that more than other stimuli. Around 1.5 hours in, my panic continues and I start to have some very weird hallucinations. I think my skin is peeling off like clay and I try to grab it. My mouth disappears and I think, oh shit, how can I speak? My whole body is shaking like fuck. Ego death, I should note, seems to have been averted, perhaps a mistake. Various other intense semi-tactile hallucinations occur, and my friends are starting to be like, what the fuck is wrong with him? My flatmate Amir and his girlfriend come home. This is also his girlfriend's flat, and he helps me calm down. Everyone's feeding me water, and I try to speak, but I can't put together a sentence. I could only get about 4 words out before suddenly forgetting what's going on and what I was about to say. This continues for a while as I start to finally come down. The time is around 3 a.m., and by this point, another friend, Barry, has appeared and takes me back to my flat where we chill in the kitchen. I go and relieve myself. A very strange experience in itself, as I seem to have extra feelings, but too much information. I go to sleep, hoping this hasn't fucked me for life, and wake up 7 to 8 hours later, feeling not too bad. After effects. Though I initially felt okay, this experience has really haunted me and caused, among other things, serious long-term effects such as depersonalization and derealization, as well as a massive increase of my general anxiety. This kind of PTSD effect is so much that just typing this out has sent my heart racing. It was probably the most unpleasant 2 hours of my life, but it was also, looking back, very interesting, though I would not choose to repeat the experience. To this day, I don't know what was in the weed, though it should be noted that Noelle smoked some of the same batch the following week and had some similar, though much less intense effects. It feels good to get this down in writing, even if it is a little stressful. It certainly changed my perception of the world and taught me something about how limited the sober mind can be. I cannot smoke weed now, as it causes me intense anxiety and depersonalization that can last for up to a week following the smoke. Make sure your weed is legit, boys and girls. The only trips I take now are through this channel,